السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. معكم مجر ولكم مقطع جديد. مقطعنا اليوم لعبة السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. معكم مجر ولكم مقطع جديد. مقطعنا اليوم سبيس سيميليتر. فيلا بينا. طبعا هذه لعبة تشريح وزي كذا من ذي الاشياء. فبلاي.
Office of the Medical Examiner, Beatsville. Dr. Jack Hanman is speaking. How can I help you?
Good evening, this
Yeah,
is
I'm
Kate
Dr.
Brooks.
Jack.
I'm not sure if you remember me. A few weeks ago, we talked about an article I'm working on. It's about your wife. I dropped by last Friday to
طبعا
speak
في
to you,
موضوع
but you
جثة
weren't working at the
زوجة
time.
الدكتور ذا.
I asked the security guard to pass on a note for me. I would like us to discuss the topic of...
I thought I had made it painfully obvious for the last time. No! Please don't call me again and stop inquiring about my wife.
واضح أنا مرة مضايق من موضوع
It'll
زي
let me
كذا.
work. God damn it. I'm not in the best frame of mind to record a lecture for my students now. I'm feeling completely broken.
اوكي واضح مرة متأذي.
Where did I leave my meds this time? I work with corpses, but I don't have to smell like one. I work with corpses, but I don't have to smell like one.
هذه زوجته. اوكي فين وشغال.
Awful. It would be good to finally repair the coffee machine.
تمام. اوكي يقول لك check the bathroom for your bills.
This place is starting to look like a hoarder's dream. Pills first.
بحال شيء زي كذا.
I don't see any. They are flake. I don't see any need to mess with the electrics. They are flake.
Okay.
Let's hope I'm not caught short this evening.
هذا الحمام. اوكي هذه الأدوية.
Okay. Time to pull myself together. And get back to work. I need to set up the camera first.
اوكي take the camera from storage room. اوكي هذا غرفة تخزين. حلو.
Now remember, Jack. Don't forget to hit the record button this time.
حلوين. ثبت الكام.
Now I just have to get everything in frame. This should be fine. November 20th, 1991. Time 8:43 p.m. Recording for medical students from the University of Missouri. This autopsy is conducted by Jack Hanman. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the autopsy room. Today, you will have the dubious pleasure of following a full autopsy, step by step. For those of you who have already performed your first autopsy, this will refresh your basic knowledge. In turn, for those whose knowledge is only theoretical, I advise not to watch this after a meal.
اوكي هذا غرفة تشريح.
Scalpel, scissors,
وده الأخ اشرح.
magnifying
الكامل
glass,
اللي هناك.
knife.
زي ما واضح هنا بالنص أنا الحين عام 1991 فمعدات مرة قديمة. كمبيوتر وزي كذا.
Let's start.
اوكي تمام نبدأ في واحد.
Always wear an apron, mask, and gloves. Goggles are a must when the job is splashy. And in case of sharp accidents, it's true. The cadaver is placed on its back on the autopsy table. The pathologist stands on the right.
اوكي هذا هو.
The body was noticed by a station employee during the morning shift. Initially, he thought that someone had thrown some boots and a coat. It took him
تمام.
The deceased's name is Tobias Chambers, locally known as Old Toby. Homeless and unemployed for at least a couple of years.
Okay.
Signs of libation were found around the body. The deceased was found on the outskirts of a parking lot at a gas station, where he often begged and persistently offered drivers to wash their car windows. This is found on the body.
هذه gloves.
Now it's our turn to take some pictures for our files.
Yes.
There you are. I knew it was here somewhere. As I mentioned at the beginning, before we begin the internal examination, we need to document the cadaver and the condition it arrived in. We begin with a full body photo. Try and stick to the top-down rule, but this is not always possible. Let's keep in mind it's all about the legibility, not the perfect frame.
كده
Well,
كويس.
now we move on to the next step. Take your
كون
time. Look at the,
الصورة. نصور كده أماكن في الجسم الحين.
That's something interesting. It will be necessary to check whether...
اوكي هذا الأولى. دور أثار هنا.
Some wounds in the feet and signs of frostbite, probably because the subject's shoes were too small.
في ضربة من هنا. اوكي في شيء هنا. كبر. كده.
The boiler yield wound looks old. I'll take a closer look later.
ايش باقي مرة نجلس صورنا كل شيء من هنا من هنا من هنا. كيف في شيء هنا. كيف في ايش في هنا. في طارق تجمد
Hardened
في جسمه.
hands, worn out by physical
صابت
work
فيه.
and frostbite. In a moment. Which spot first? Here we can see frostbite on the fingertips. We can tell by the characteristic skin color.
اوكي الحين. دي.
I can confirm the presence of ecchymosis on the deceased man's head. The appearance indicates the intravital nature of the wound. Add alcohol.
اوكي الحين.
It looks like a burn mark. No doubt painful, but it's...
هنا جنب رجوله.
definitely a painful mix of frostbite, abrasions, and blisters. Old Toby had been wearing shoes too. So far, first, I'll mark the location of the injuries and make notes of the head wound. Even though this type of wound didn't if Toby's body were not in frost season yet, but high humidity, wind, and the inability to various types of accidents are a common cause of death among the homeless and the elderly. Perhaps old Toby slipped and accidentally hit his head. This is of no interest to us. The Knights have been considering the conditions in which he slept. His body may have become hypothermic. Since the deceased clearly smelled of alcohol, I'll add alcohol poisoning to our list. We still have one thing left for the basics. Rigor mortis. Well, we take our deceased by the hand, gradually re-raise it.
كلام شويش. شويش. تعرف مع حركة اوكي. مرحبا حبيبي. تمام. كيف زي كده. اوكي تمام.
Now let it go. As you can see, the hand falls loose. What's the conclusion? Death must have occurred more than 72 hours ago. The police information appears correct. Head trauma seems the most promising, so we'll start there. For this, I need an oscillating saw.
اوكي.
The cut is made from ear to ear. After which, we remove the skin and the top of the skull. After the basic examination, we can see that the brain's cerebral gyri in both hemispheres are symmetric. The brain looks good. Let's take a cross-section. Some pathologists prefer to examine organs without removing them. However, for me, it's much more convenient to examine them on a board, which we'll do now.
ناخذ الدماغ على الكاتنج بورد.
Holding a long, narrow blade knife in the dominant hand, we slowly cut the cranial nerves on both sides, all the time pulling the brain towards us. So far, so good. The hematoma seems to have had no effect on the brain.
نجرب مشرحة.
My heart kills. It's been a while since the eyewash in this thing was changed. It's probably a health hazard now.
ايش في دقيقة؟ اوكي، كل ما راس العور ناخذ الادوية هذه. حلوين. جاء الحين.
We can rule the fatal accident out as well.
ايش المفروض نسوي الحين؟
Brain is in good condition, so we have no choice but to proceed to the internal examination of the other organs.
Okay.
I grab a scalpel from my kit.
Select this.
The incision should be in the shape of a letter Y. We use a deep cut to reach all the way to the ribs and to penetrate the abdominal wall. All right, now we peel back and separate the skin.
Now,
we need to remove the ribs. We'll need the loppers for this. Quite a satisfying crunch, for some anyway. After removing the cartilage tissue, we can see widespread black and tarry deposits caused by smoking cigarettes. Despite the tragic condition of the lungs, they are not the cause of death. Alice smoked too. It didn't kill her, but... what was I talking about? Lungs. Yes. Advanced inflammation. the syringe. Now's a good time to collect some
الصورة
samples.
الثانية. اوكي.
Specifically 3. 5 milliliters from the left ventricle should do
دم
it.
من القلب. دم من هنا.
Vitreous humor analysis is very useful in indicating long-term alcohol abuse.
دم من الفخذ.
Left on the bladder, we draw about 10 milliliters of fluid. Now we take our samples to the centrifuge. But before I do that, I need to find my notebook. My dyscalculia means that I always double.
اوكي هذا
This whole thing is covered in stains. I should check this out under the microscope sometime. Let's get back to the examination. I get cases like this more than any other.
هذه.
We put all of the samples into the rotor.
الدم.
Now we set the appropriate time and speed.
الماكسيمم. الوقت. سبيد 70% قلتها 5 دقيقة. سبيد 70.
Okay, let's roll.
اوكي.
Oh shit. The fuses again.
خلاص الدورات دي.
Where were we? Oh yes, the blood alcohol concentration.
Okay.
Let's see what we got here. Everything's separated as it should. Our lab is closed until tomorrow after the last, incident. However, considering that Toby's favorite eau de parfum appears to be ethanol, I'm guessing the results won't surprise me at all. Let's go further. We will now focus on the cardiovascular system, specifically the heart. We remove the organ. We look for dark hypoxic areas, clots, or other elements that stand out as abnormal. At first glance, the heart looks fine. The pulmonary trunk and aorta seem to be in good condition. There are no pathological changes that would have contributed to Toby's death. Now let's take a closer look at size is normal, healthy, and as expected, the stomach has no major external damage. We must now cut it open and inspect inside.
القلب والذات اليمين.
We will do it carefully so that its contents do not spill out.
قلب المعدة اليمين تمام. الحين شكل الحين
We open the stomach along the greater curvature, from the heart to the pyloric end. Oh, I already feel like there's something left inside. Okay, large amount of gas, small amounts of yellow grayish fruit content, resembling some kind of meat. Either our deceased hadn't eaten in days, or the bulk of his stomach had already found a way out. Looks like I'll have to find the missing contents.
يا مشرحة الحين.
There are two ways here. One is obvious, and the other is... It couldn't have been suffocation, could it? I'll add this to the list and move on to the deceased's neck.
الحين مستحيل هذه.
At first glance, the trachea looks normal. Same result as with the stomach. The external inspection doesn't tell us anything. This time we'll cut on a tray.
مدمجين القصبة الهوائية.
While cutting such a small organ as the trachea, we must make a precise incision.
وش التلتيرة إذا كمان الحين.
Poor soul. I could...
هذه
To be able to cut with the very tip of the blade, we must hold the scalpel as we would a pen.
كذا.
And after careful examination of cloth, it's time to summarize the whole thing.
صراحة.
Based on the report and preliminary documentation, it's safe to assume that the deceased... Then, the gastric contents refluxed and flooded the airways, causing death. That's why we don't forget about the recovery position at dorm parties.
تمام. ايش سبب الموت؟ يلا نبقى بس وين نبقى بالإمكان. تمام وضعنا حادثة.
And now it's all clear. The death, well, the mystery is solved. But for us, this is not the end. First, the dead body needs to be cleaned up.
لازم نضيف الجثة. خلاص سويت ايش كمان يعني. تمام.
For this, we will need to close the body and grab the needle. First, we unroll the skin and then we sew the deceased back. I'm using the baseball stitch technique. This stitching method is very strong and quick to do. Beautiful.
تمام صح كذا. كنا نتبع الجثة.
Now we say goodbye to the deceased and put them safely in the fridge, ready for the next stage of their journey.
تمام.
God, I'm tired. I'll drop these samples off.
اوكي الحين هاي يبدو لوت. اوكي الحين نروح سيارتنا. وين السيارة طيب يا حبيبي؟
I'll call Stephen. I don't feel like trekking along today.
تمام. وانتهت مهمتنا اليوم في أول تشريح لنا، وإلى هنا كنا وصلنا للمقطع. تستعملوا لايك وشير وسبسكرايب وصلح حبيبي طيب، والسلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.